There's a common theme that I have been seeing about sleep training and what to do when fill in the blank. Generally, the blank being filled in is what happens when my kid is sick, what happens when we go on vacation, and what happens when my baby gets immunizations. We are going to talk all about what to do when your baby gets immunizations and how to handle the immunizations and sleep. If you're wondering about what to do when your baby gets sick, then check out this video right here. So today we're gonna talk about some facts about baby immunizations and sleep, and also some tips on how to help your baby through the immunizations. Now, fact number one is that sleep disturbances should be expected, and they are very common when your baby gets immunizations. Now, generally with younger babies, so I'm talking about younger than 12 months old, they are getting the immunizations in their thighs. So hopefully you have a baby with nice, juicy, thick thighs, and it won't be as bad for them. The thicker the thigh, the more, just the more cushion for the for the vaccine. But generally, those thicker thighs kind of take better to the shot going in their skin. The good thing about the sleep changes after immunizations is that it's only temporary. As long as you're not changing your sleep expectations, it's only gonna last a couple days. The second thing to consider is that it's only going to be mild discomfort during this time. So they may have some redness, a little bit of irritation, maybe a bump at the injection site, but it's only going to last a couple days like we talked about. Just to keep in mind that your child may be a little bit more fussy, and it might just take them a little bit longer to fall asleep at bedtime. So now moving on to the next fact is basically stating that sometimes getting a fever after immunizations can be normal. Generally, it is a low-grade fever, and it does increase that fussiness that we talked about. As long as you're giving your child a little bit more cuddles, a little bit more support at bedtime, then hopefully it's very short-lived. The next fact to consider is that your baby may be seeking more comfort during this transitional time between getting the immunization and getting over the immunization. So with the fussiness, they may want to nurse more, they may want more bottles, they may want a pacifier, they may just want to be held more, and that's totally normal. Definitely give your child that support while keeping your typical sleep expectations. If your child generally falls asleep independently, you want to continue having them fall asleep independently while giving them the extra comfort and attention that they need, just trying to keep them awake and drowsy while doing so. With all of that being said, you want to make sure that you are monitoring their behavior during this reaction period. You want to make sure that whatever advice your doctor has given as far as pain relief, and also any signs that you should be looking for allergic reaction, maybe they break out in hives, those are definitely signs that you shouldn't ignore, and you should call your doctor right away. So if your child is waking more during the night, then of course you need to attend to your child because you know that something different has happened in their routine or their schedule, and you are looking to make sure that everything is okay. It is 100% important to listen to your doctor's advice with any kind of pain relief, whether they're going to administer or tell you to administer acetaminophen or ibuprofen. Different drugs have different ages of use. So make sure that you are listening to what your doctor says is appropriate for your child's age, and don't sit around and Google what you can and can't give your child. Just call the office, or some places have portals on their websites through your pediatrician that will tell you what you can give your child and what you can't for some pain relief and relief of the irritability. Now, the next thing that you want to consider is your child's sleep environment. Now, you know that I am always advocating for a safe sleep environment, so you want to make sure that you're keeping it that way. If your child has become more fussy during this immunization period, then you don't want to bring your child into your bed and think, oh, this is just for one night because they got shots today. If that's not something that you want to sustain throughout from here on out, then don't do it in the first place. The next thing that you want to consider is your baby's sleep routine. You want to make sure that you're sticking to their routine the way you always do, but if you need to stretch it a little bit longer, if your baby is a little bit more fussy that night, read an extra book, have 5 minutes of extra cuddling, whatever you want to do. Give your baby that lotion massage, maybe make it a little bit longer, and just have that extra time, but keep everything in the same order that you normally do while giving a little bit of extra comfort. Babies thrive on consistency, so make sure that you are providing that consistency and not making it anything like, oh, has been a totally different day, we're gonna do something different at bedtime, because that's kind of a recipe for just being off schedule and off routines from here on out. Now, also keeping in mind that every baby is different. So some babies might sleep more after getting their immunizations or vaccines. Some babies might sleep less when they get their immunizations or vaccines. And I know that some babies, like, they may be consistent as they get all of their vaccines in that first year, or they may have one reaction to one vaccine, a different reaction to a different one. So just remember, like, keep it light and don't have unrealistic expectations of how they're going to react, because every vaccine is going to have different things in it. I am not a medical professional. I don't know what to call it, ingredients, whatever we want to say, but they may have a different reaction to different immunizations. So just make sure that you are reasonably expecting that it may not be the same for their 6-month vaccines as it was for their 3-month vaccines, or that maybe their 12-month vaccines maybe hurt a little more because maybe they're walking a little more, they're using those muscles. So just kind of keep in mind that some babies, they may be totally consistent throughout the entire, you know, adaptation, I can't say that word, adaptation period, and some might not be. Now, some extra bonus tips during this immunization time is that your baby, we kind of discussed that they may be looking for extra feedings. Because vaccines are a form of medicine, or whatever we want to call it, it's something going into your baby's system and changing things. So you want to make sure that if your baby is looking for those extra feedings, you do want to offer them, because you want to keep your baby hydrated. Keeping them hydrated during this period is going to help their body get accustomed to whatever changes are going on the inside. So make sure that you are giving those extra feedings when your baby is looking for it. And also, bonus for the moms who are nursing, that your breast milk will supply whatever nutrients your baby needs, because your bodies are just freaking incredible. And the way that they just like change and adapt to what your baby needs at a specific time is going to help them adjust to the immunizations. If you have a really fussy baby and they're not doing very well with their immunizations, but they're not necessarily having an allergic reaction, but you just need some extra comfort items, what you want to do is you could put a cold compress on the injection site. You can distract them and just try and change up activities a little bit more often. Keep them distracted, because the more you can distract them from the pain, the better that they're going to kind of fare from the immunization. One distraction technique that I love using with babies is bubbles, blowing bubbles. It's always just like one of those things that gets kids mesmerized. I don't know why, but bubbles are just mesmerizing. So just like pop some bubbles. If your baby's old enough to be able to look at them, and even if they're 3 months old, you can blow bubbles over them while they're laying down, or if they're laying on their back, obviously. You can blow bubbles straight across or like towards them if you're doing some tummy time, but it's something great that they can just look at, and as they get a little bit older, they can grasp at the bubbles, and as they get even older, you can try and teach them to clap and pop them. Anyways, I love bubbles. As far as comfort items, if your baby is attached to any stuffed animal or special blanket or anything that you only give them at bedtime, and of course this only goes for the older babies, aka kind of toddlers, that can have these items at bedtime, then you can offer them outside the crib, even though I don't generally recommend this. If they're having a really hard time with their immunizations, things like a pacifier or a stuffy or a special blanket or something that may help them calm down a little bit better is appropriate during this time, but just making sure that you only do that for a day or two, and then keep the pacifier in the crib, because that is my golden rule when having a pacifier over 6 months old. Stays in the crib and is only for sleep. This is your only exception. The last tip that I have for you is to take care of yourself. It can be draining and it can be emotional to take care of your child after they have an immunization if they're not having the best reaction. Maybe they're waking up more during the night, and maybe you're even more exhausted and drained because maybe your baby is more clingy and fussy, and it is frustrating, and that's okay. It is okay to be frustrated that your baby is not their happy, calm, bubbly, normal normal self. It's okay to take care of yourself when you need to, just make sure that you're paying attention to your own needs as well. And if all else fails and your baby's sleep goes completely off the rails after their immunization and maybe you fell into some bad habits that you're having trouble breaking, then set up a consultation in the link in the description box down below. Check out my one-on-one sleep packages, and I would be so honored to help your family get sleep back on track. I hope that you enjoyed this video and keep blooming. Mwah.